The NIKKOR Z 85mm f1.2 lens was released on March 24th this year. I got my hands on my copy on release day since I ordered on the day it was announced. Now that wasn't a foregone conclusion. I already had the f1.8 and that's still a great lens at a reasonable price. All the S-line 1.8 lenses are superb. But the more I learned about it, the more my interest was piqued and I finally succumbed to gas. I made a short unboxing video on the day I picked it up from the shop in a Victoria park, the same park where I unboxed the Z8 camera a couple of months later, and I'll link my 6-month review of that camera at the end of this video. It's taken a longer gestation period to get to this perspective. 9 months seems about right. But finally, this is it. I don't think there's much point in re-examining technical details. I'm not much of a techno geek, believe it or not. I'm more of a kind of hands-on photographer. So I'll just let the lens speak for itself through a selection of photos and a video clip or two that I've made with this lens over the last 9 months. And there's plenty there in terms of video clips since I've used it in quite a few of these videos. So let's do it. Hi, Ray here. I'm here today with Lauren, who's going to model for us. And I gotta say that Lauren is a real trooper because it's actually about 6 degrees Celsius out today. We're gonna shoot with the Nikon Z8 and the 85mm f1.2. And we'll see what we can do here in the forest. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The NIKKOR 85mm f1.2 lens is no slouch when it comes to sharpness and overall rendering. I hope some of the photos and videos showed that. And as I said from the get-go, there's something special going on here that I'm guessing only its engineers truly understand. But it's also quite a handful as well, at 1,169 grams, over 2.5 pounds. Put that on your 1,340 gram, nearly 3 pound Z9. That's the camera weight with battery and media, and you're looking at a hefty 2,500 gram package, 5.5 pounds. With the 910 gram Z8, you're still looking at 2,079 grams, over 4.5 pounds. I have used it with the ZF, and though you couldn't call it a well-balanced combo, it works beautifully, as you'd expect. For me, a monopod is often part of my location kit. So I'll admit, the 85 1.2 isn't my first choice for street photography, but boy, is it fun. It would be amazing if we could get something with this kind of performance and IQ in, say, a pancake lens. How much would that cost if it were possible? For landscape, again, it's not the first lens that I think of, but I do like telephoto views as a change from the stereotypical ultra-wide views that we see all too often. Obviously, this is a lens built with portraiture in mind, and I hope a couple of the portraits that I've included here, controlled and decisive moment, show its potential. As an aside, let me comment on my approach to location portraiture. I don't have any studio portraits that I can share here, maybe another video, but on location, which is my preferred kind of portrait shoot, my personal approach is to keep things simple and not interfere with the natural light, or to work with it, maybe a reflector, but otherwise to leave the strobes in the studio. And I think it's safe to say I'm not alone in this trend. High-speed sync and the promises of global shutter aside, photographers have been moving away from artificial light to do work with ambient. And this is due, I think, in no small part to technical advances in camera and post-processing. And by that I mean the dynamic range of modern sensors, the kind of simple subject isolation tools available in editing software like Lightroom and Photoshop, refined by AI. It's not all end-of-the-world scenarios. And that wide aperture sure helps when you're working just with available light, when its availability is limited. Put this together with the kind of stabilization we have with the Z cameras, especially the Z9, Z8, and now we have the possibility of 8 stops of IBIS with the ZF. Well, you get the picture. I mean, the picture that would have been impossible without a tripod or strobes not too long ago. Of course, much depends on the quality of light we have to deal with. As David Bailey quipped some decades back, only mad dogs and Helmut Newton go out in the midday sun. But that's just what I did for the shot with the model by the chain link fence, using a sort of triangle of shadow to set her apart from the brighter background. I love the bokeh in that shot, especially on the fence. So, and I'm not on the fence about it, so always be aware of opportunity. A cloud can be either a diffuser or a reflector. A building can reflect the most wonderful light and add all kinds of interesting hues. I just love the challenge of location shooting. Well, when things go right anyway. And it pays to scout and to take note of conditions beforehand. There's certain locations I go back to again and again because they're kind of like movie sets with everything already in place. I know at a certain time of year, at a given hour, with the right light, I can pretty much guarantee the results. And then there's always the photographer's ephemeris app for unfamiliar territory. And to return to dynamic range for a moment, the DR we get with these cameras today, and don't let anyone tell you that, say, the Z9 and Z8 aren't impressive in that respect. Photons to photos graphs, they really aren't a substitute for the actual editing experience. And put that together with the tools that we now have at our fingertips, Capture One, Lightroom, Photoshop, DxO, Nik suite of apps. I must buy back into the latter. And we have an amazing palette of color and tonality, like nothing that I've seen in 5 decades of experimentation. For me, it's just like the technical skills and materials that I used in my darkroom days: dodging, burning, bleaching, toning, selective toning, diffusion, but on steroids. I think the only thing the photographer has to add to their skill set today really is restraint. I saw a claim recently that this lens is not sharp wide open. I'll say here what I said in that particular forum. We must be talking about different lenses. I'll let the maximum aperture examples here speak for my experience. I have featured budget wide aperture lenses on this channel, APS-C lenses at least, and it really is a matter of you get what you pay for. Did I mention the price of the NIKKOR lens? Well, in Canada I paid $37.99 before taxes. I believe it goes for $2,796.95 US. And as I'm making this video, there's a $300 instant discount in Canada. Grab that while it's hot. One caveat: this lens does exhibit chromatic aberration in some circumstances, as one would expect in extreme backlit scenes, and it can be fairly noticeable, requiring some work in, say, Lightroom to knock it down. For video, this lens is a superb choice. I've been using it for these talking head situations as well as location work. Focus breathing is well controlled, and again, the rendering that you get with this lens is, dare I say, wonderfully cinematique. I hope some of these photos and video clips demonstrate some of its wonder, at least as filtered through my eye and technique. So if this video was helpful in that regard, please do give it the old thumbs up. And if this is your first time here, please do consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. In the meantime, take care, cheers, and we'll see you later.